Most people believe that crying easily is a sign of weakness. If someone becomes emotional during a conversation, tears up during a movie, or feels deeply affected by the struggles of others, they're often labeled as too sensitive, too fragile, or unable to handle reality. It's a belief so common that most of us never stop to question it. But what if that belief is completely wrong? What if the people we've spent years misunderstanding are actually experiencing life in a way that most of us can't fully see? What if tears are not evidence of weakness, but evidence of a mind and nervous system processing the world at a deeper level? Psychology has been uncovering something surprising about emotional people, and it challenges almost everything society teaches us about strength. The truth is, some individuals don't just notice emotions more often. They experience them with greater depth, intensity, and awareness. And once you understand why, you may never look at emotional people the same way again. Think back to the first time someone told you not to cry. Maybe you were a child who fell and scraped a knee. Maybe your feelings were hurt by a careless comment. Or maybe you were simply overwhelmed by an emotion you didn't yet know how to name. Whatever the moment was, there's a good chance the response wasn't curiosity or understanding. It was something like, "Stop crying, be strong," or "Don't be so sensitive." Those words may have seemed small at the time, but they carried a message that ran much deeper. They taught us that certain emotions were acceptable, while others were not. Over time, many emotional people began to believe that their natural reactions were flaws that needed to be controlled or hidden. As the years passed, that lesson often became an inner voice. Instead of asking why they felt things so deeply, they started asking what was wrong with them. And without realizing it, many spent adulthood carrying a belief that never truly belonged to them in the first place. What if the problem was never your emotions, but the way they were interpreted? Modern psychology offers a perspective that many people never hear growing up. Sensitivity is not a defect in character. It is a measurable personality trait. Some individuals are naturally wired to process emotional and sensory information more deeply than others, and that difference shapes how they experience the world every single day. Imagine two people walking into the same room. One notices the conversation and moves on. The other immediately senses tension between two friends, picks up on a forced smile, notices a shift in tone, and feels the emotional atmosphere without anyone saying a word. Neither person is right or wrong. They are simply processing different amounts of information. This is why emotionally sensitive people are often misunderstood. What looks like overreacting from the outside may actually be a response to details others never registered in the first place. They notice subtle expressions, unspoken emotions, and changes in energy that often go unnoticed. When you begin to understand this, sensitivity stops looking like weakness. It starts looking more like a different operating system, one designed to detect emotional signals with remarkable depth and accuracy. One of the most misunderstood aspects of being emotionally sensitive is that the feelings aren't always your own. For many people, empathy goes far beyond understanding what someone else is experiencing. It feels more like stepping into their emotional world, even when you never intended to. Have you ever seen a stranger cry and felt your throat tighten before you knew why? Or watched a heartbreaking scene in a film and carried the sadness long after the credits ended? Maybe you've walked into a room where nobody said anything was wrong, yet somehow you could feel the tension hanging in the air. Emotional people often experience moments like these every day. Their minds are constantly picking up signals that others overlook. A tired voice, a hidden disappointment, a smile that seems slightly forced. These details don't simply register as information. They create an emotional response that feels personal and immediate. The challenge is that carrying this level of empathy can be exhausting. Emotional people often leave conversations feeling drained, not because anything happened to them directly, but because they spent hours carrying emotions that belonged to someone else. Their compassion creates connection, but it can also become a weight they never asked to hold. There is another side to emotional sensitivity that almost nobody talks about. Long after a conversation ends, a disagreement fades, or an emotional moment passes, many sensitive people are still processing it. While others seem to move on effortlessly, they find themselves replaying words, expressions, and emotions in their minds, searching for meaning beneath the surface. From the outside, this can look like overthinking. Some are told they are dwelling too much or refusing to let things go. But that interpretation misses something important. Often, they are not holding on because they are weak. They are holding on because their minds are still working through the experience. They want to understand what happened, why it happened, and what it reveals about themselves or the people around them. This deeper processing can be emotionally demanding, but it also creates something valuable. It develops insight. Many of the people who possess remarkable self-awareness, creativity, and wisdom share this tendency. They reflect deeply because they experience deeply. What others dismiss as sensitivity can become a source of understanding that reaches far beyond the original moment. In that sense, emotional depth is not simply feeling more. It is learning more from what you feel, and this is where the story begins to change. For so long, emotional sensitivity has been framed as a burden that many people never stop to examine the gifts hidden inside it. The very traits that make emotional people vulnerable to deeper feelings are often the same traits that make them extraordinary in human relationships. Because they pay attention to emotions, they tend to become exceptional listeners. When someone speaks, they are not simply waiting for their turn to respond. They are listening for what is being said and what is being left unsaid. Their compassion allows people to feel understood in ways that are increasingly rare. Their emotional awareness often develops into emotional intelligence. They learn to recognize subtle shifts in mood, navigate complex feelings, and understand the needs of others with remarkable accuracy. Over time, this creates strong intuition, helping them sense situations that logic alone cannot fully explain. These qualities also make them valuable friends, partners, leaders, artists, and creators. People trust them because they feel seen. They inspire connection because they bring authenticity into spaces where many wear masks. What once looked like weakness begins to reveal itself as strength. Not the loud, visible kind that demands attention, but the quiet kind that builds trust, deepens relationships, and helps others feel less alone in the world. So perhaps the real question is not whether emotional people are too sensitive. Perhaps the question is whether we've misunderstood sensitivity all along. What if strength isn't the absence of emotion? What if strength is the ability to feel deeply and remain open anyway? At the beginning, emotional sensitivity may have looked like weakness. Then we discovered it was something different entirely, a unique way of processing the world, connecting with others, and making meaning from life's experiences. And now a different picture emerges. Not weakness. Not a flaw. A strength that simply wears a different face. The ability to care deeply, empathize genuinely, and stay connected to your emotions in a world that often encourages disconnection requires a quiet kind of courage. I'd love to hear your perspective. Do you believe emotional sensitivity is a weakness, a difference, or a hidden strength? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this changed the way you see emotional people, consider joining us for more insights into the psychology behind everyday human behavior.